All right, I am so excited to finally be able to sit here and talk about Spider-Man No Way Home without just a simple review. I'm excited to sit here and talk about all the spoilers in the movie, talk about exactly everything that happens, and have a conversation with all you guys watching below. So like I said, this is going to contain full spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, you might want to go ahead and click off the video. But without further ado, let's get right into it. All right. One of my favorite scenes when I was sitting there in the theater was the bridge fight, when Doc Ock shows up on that bridge. And him and Peter start going at it, and Doc Ock is fleeing cars and everything, and just seeing that with the 2021 special effects that we have these days, it's so awesome to see Doc Ock and just how great special effects is these days, and seeing him fight Peter, and then when he finally realizes that oh, you're not my Peter Parker. I thought that was funny. Even though I've seen it in the trailer, it was really fun seeing on the big screen, and seeing Green Goblin finally come back. I really enjoyed the costume wasn't a whole lot different than what we saw in like the very original Spider-Man, but I noticed a few differences. It didn't look as Power Rangey to me because, and I talked about this in my review for the first Spider-Man movie that was made 20 years ago. A lot of times when the Green Goblin was in that movie and it was daylight outside, it definitely looked like a Power Ranger costume. But seeing Doc Ock and the Green Goblin show up on the bridge and everything was absolutely amazing. Now, when the movie kind of got a little bit slower to me is when Peter was kind of going around and getting all the villains up and kind of rounding them up in a way. I was kind of, like I said in my review, I was never bored in a certain aspect, but I was kind of wondering, okay, what exactly are they gonna do? And that's kind of when the movie was like tonally shifting a little bit. But I do think, like I said in my review, I think all the people that reprised their roles as far as the actors go, that came back to play their villains, were amazing. And Jamie Foxx, like Jamie Foxx almost is like seemed like a whole different person in this movie in a way. But I like his portrayal of Electro in this movie, and I do like the fact that he wasn't blue anymore. I thought him being blue in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, to me it always looked, even when the movie first came out, it just didn't look good. It's just the way the effects and stuff were. But Electro looks really great in this movie. But the thing is when Spider-Man's trying to cure all of them in this movie, that's when shit really hits the fan, and that's about the part of the movie where I just fell in love with it. Seeing Green Goblin sit there and just like slam Peter Parker through an apartment building floor and just like basically just bash him up. I mean that's something, because in the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, I mean, we got some of that. I mean, they were throwing hands when at the end of the movie and everything, when they were in the like abandoned warehouse or wherever that was where they were fighting. We saw some of that, but in this movie, I mean, it was violent. I mean, Green Goblin was kicking Peter Parker's ass for like that entire fight right there, and it wasn't really even close. And I loved being able to see that. And then obviously right after that scene, we get the scene that really, when this happened, the entire movie changes, and that's when Aunt May dies. Man, that scene really hits. That was sad. I didn't cry or anything. I didn't make me tear up, but there in the theater I was in, I could definitely hear sniffles around the theater. So that scene was definitely effective for quite a bit of people that were going in to see the movie. And the other thing I really liked about Aunt May in this movie is before she died, she told Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. And I like the fact that we got that line in this movie. And we also got that line a second time later on, which I will get to. But Aunt May dying in this movie was like a big stepping stone into Peter Parker really becoming Spider-Man. And I talked about that in my review, how in this movie we're basically seeing Spider-Man really become the man, really become Spider-Man. He's, this is a stepping stone in his life to take the next step to being Spider-Man. And right after that scene when Aunt May dies, we get this really cool shot where Peter Parker is, he's standing on this top of the rooftop looking at the video of J. Jonah Jameson basically talking about, listen, everything that Spider-Man touches basically turns to crap, like everything. So as long as Spider-Man's around, villains are going to be here. New York is going to be in danger as long as Spider-Man's here. And we see the light that's on Tom Holland's face in that shot. It's like a red light, and then it's raining and everything. And it's just this perfect shot, just encapsulating just how terrible Peter Parker feels, because, Peter Parker didn't really think that this was necessarily his job to, really feel like he should cure these people. I mean, he wanted to kind of send them back and everything, and he had that conversation with Aunt May, and he himself feels in that scene, hey, listen, if I just sent them back, Aunt May would still be alive. But the interesting thing about this movie, and it's just like in all the other Spider-Man adaptations, it's, when Uncle Ben dies, that's kind of Peter Parker's stepping stone, and in this movie, it's when Aunt May dies. So I thought that was really cool. And then Ned being able to open portals and everything, I thought was really cool. The other thing I want to touch on is, like, in the previous two movies of both Homecoming and Far From Home, I wasn't a big fan of MJ in those movies. I always thought I kind of kept thinking to myself, I was like, why does Peter Parker like this MJ? She especially like in, well, I guess he didn't really care for her as much in Homecoming, but in Far From Home she'd always just seem like this person who was just like, yeah, I don't care. Oh, it's this, it's that, and I was like, why does Peter Parker want a girl like that? I have to say, I liked MJ a lot more in this movie. She seemed a lot less like that. Her character is a little bit more happier, it seemed, in this movie, and I think Zendaya did a great job playing her. But speaking of Ned and opening the portals, we have to talk about the scene, man. When Andrew Garfield first runs in through the portal and we see the Amazing Spider-Man suit, my theater went ballistic. I don't know exactly what was going on behind me because I just heard a bunch of thumping sounds and like my seat and everything was rumbling because people were clapping and cheering. But that rumbling, I don't know if people were stomping on the ground when that was happening, like with their feet, or if they were up out of their seat jumping. I didn't turn around to look. But I think there might have been people literally that got out of their seat and started jumping around while clapping. That scene, and it was amazing. And then especially when he first takes off his mask and you see it's Andrew Garfield. And the funniest part about that is just how adamant Andrew Garfield's been this entire time. He goes, guys, I'm sorry, I'm not in this movie. I mean, just a few weeks ago when he was promoting Tick Tick Boom, his newest movie, he was going around being like, guys, I'm sorry, I'm not in the movie. Don't hate me. And then you see him coming in this movie. It's just like, yeah. I mean, he was so perfect. I mean, he did actually a pretty good, believable job. Every time he was saying he wasn't in the movie, I kept thinking to myself, you know what, maybe he's actually not in this movie. But that scene was great. Then obviously the next portal scene, it opens up and dude, just Tobey Maguire walks right on in. See, for me, I'm glad they saved Toby for last for, him to come in next, but I kind of wish Toby would have had like a suit on as well, like Andrew Garfield did, because when he just walked in his street clothes, I felt like it was almost like a little anticlimactic. But listen, seeing Toby, I mean, Toby definitely looks a lot older, all right? I don't think they even de-aged Toby at all. I could be wrong, maybe they did, but the way he looked in this movie, he definitely looks his age. He definitely looks like it's been 20 years since the first Spider-Man movie. So I don't even think they use any de-aging process on Tobey Maguire. But boys, to see Toby and Andrew together with each other, and when they start shooting webs at each other, that was just a dream come true. I remember a few years ago, I used to think, dude, it would be so cool, like in this high school version of Spider-Man, if like one day there was some cameo where like Andrew Garfield was like a librarian in the school, or like Tobey Maguire was some substitute teacher in the school, just to like have them play. I never in my wildest dreams thought we would ever see Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland, three Spider-Man, in the same scene together, and they're not even cameos. That's the craziest part about this movie, is when they show up, they're not there for like 5 minutes. They're there for like the entire like second half or however many minutes it is. It's like the last 45, 50 minutes of the movie. They are there. And that was one thing I was actually really amazed by, because when all the leaks and everything were coming out and people were like, trust us, they're in this movie, I was like, well, they're probably in it maybe 5, maybe at most 10 minutes. No, they are in this movie. Like, they are a huge part of this movie. And going back to the, with great power comes great responsibility, when to hear the end of that line, be spoken when it's brought up again, to hear Tobey Maguire say, comes great responsibility, it's just, it takes me back to those original 3 movies. I adored this movie, and I love seeing all 3 of them on the screen together. And the internet was right when they're on the fight and they're on the Statue of Liberty fighting. When you got Lizard and Electro and everything coming towards each other, everybody was pointing out a month ago when the trailer came out that, hey, listen, these people are flying towards no one. I bet they're Spider-Man in these shots, and they just edited the Spider-Man out. And they're right. That's exactly what happened in that shot. But before that part even happens, just when all 3 of them were sitting there and coordinating exactly what they should do, and they all get their masks on, they all run, and then they all start web-slinging, and you get that cool shot where it's the moon in the background, and then they land, and you see all 3 of them right there. I'm fanboying because I am a huge fan of Spider-Man. I liked all the Spider-Man we've gotten so far with Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield, and to see all 3 of them play a major part in this movie, I mean, this movie it's a fan's dream come true. It really is. That's why when I talked about my review, I said there's a lot of fan service, a lot of nostalgia aspects to it, and I thought like the first half of the movie was like, it did an okay job of that, but the rest of the movie, just bringing in the 3 Spider-Man, it was. Honestly, it was just a dream come true. And for anybody out there that grew up, whether it was The Amazing Spider-Man or with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, you watching this movie, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't sit there and just have the biggest smile on your face. It was just, it was awesome. And that entire fight scene at the end, when all 3 of them are going around, they're trying to cure their villains and everything, I thought that was all really well done. And then the very, very like end of the movie, the last fight, when Tom Holland's Spider-Man is just beating up, because Green Goblin got him before in that apartment building, and now Tom Holland's got him, and he is just beating the crap out of this guy. And then he's about to, take his little take his little hovercraft board, I totally forget what it's called now, and just spike him with it, almost like what happened 20 years ago in Spider-Man 1. And to see Tobey come in and be like, no, don't do this. Just, you don't need to be vengeful. Don't do it. That was really great. And then obviously the next scene, all of a sudden, Goblin stabs Tobey. And I thought in the theater, I was like, dude, are they killing Tobey? I was like, they better not kill one of these Spider-Men. And I mean, I'm glad that Tobey didn't end up actually dying. But when that scene happened, I was like, dude, because Tobey Maguire is my favorite Spider-Man. I love his 3 movies. I really do. So that to me was like, oh my God, please don't kill Tobey. But obviously it didn't. Everybody gets redeemed, but people get sent back. I was kind of surprised because when we saw in the trailer, when Doctor Strange was like, you know, they're all coming in, I can't stop them. I thought there was going to be a little bit more to that scene. I thought some other stuff was actually going to come in for a second. I don't know exactly what, but I was like, maybe we'll see some cameos. Maybe, just maybe, like a quick cameo of some X-Men character or some other characters from like some other movies, just real quickly just pop in. But there was really nothing else to that scene. They just go, listen, let's do the spell. Let's make everybody forget that I'm Peter Parker, and let's go home. And that's what shuts up everybody all coming in. But that in itself, and that's another stepping stone, you know, with Peter Parker, is the fact that, you know, at the beginning of the movie, he's very hesitant about that. And then he learns, he goes, listen, if this is the only way, it's the only way. And then everybody who remembered Peter Parker, and including everybody that knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man, forgets, including his best friend Ned, his girlfriend MJ, and Happy. You know, they all forget, and the Avengers are gonna forget too. Then it's one of those things where it's nice to see that, because he made a lot of mistakes. All right, this Tom Holland Spider-Man, as far as, because he's a high schooler in these 3 movies, so he's made a lot of dumb mistakes, even in Far From Home, when he's using his glasses to like look up all these social media stuff. He does high school mistakes, and this movie, it's like he takes that next step, and I really enjoyed that about this movie. And then when the movie finally wants to come to that close, and he goes to the shop to see, you know, Zendaya, MJ, he sees MJ and Ned and how happy they are, even without remembering him. And you can see how much it eats up at him that he wants to tell MJ. You know, listen, he's got the whole paper. We don't know exactly what it says on the paper. We never really see the entire thing. But he just ends up, you know, eventually realizing, you know what? I don't need to. And it'll be very interesting to see what exactly happens in the next Spider-Man movie that they make. But I thought that was a very interesting decision filmmaking-wise, and I really liked that decision they made for the character of Peter Parker. The fact that, you know, he's just going to leave it be for now. And then we see him get his own place at the end. They're talking about rent. We see him have a GED handbook and his moving supplies. So, you know, we can sit there and assume, you know what, he's going to drop out of high school. He doesn't have the time, really. He's going to go ahead and get his GED. He's going to call it good and stuff like that. And man, when he visited Aunt May's grave and Happy was there, and he looks at him and he goes, how'd you know her? I mean, it's like, oh God, because Happy doesn't know who Peter Parker is anymore. And it's sad. And then the last shot of the film, when you know, he finally gets the newest suit on and he's swinging through the city, the music is so well done in that shot, and I loved the final shot of this movie. It was like bringing back the final shot of like the original first 2 Spider-Mans with Tobey Maguire, or even like obviously with Andrew Garfield and the Amazing Spider-Man, when they're swinging through the city. I love when the Spider-Man movies end when Spider-Man is swinging through the city. I just adored this movie. I thought it was really great. And another thing to top off, because I was talking about how good the music is, before the spell is complete, there's that scene where we get Peter Parker and he kisses MJ, and the music really, you know, swells up and everything. I thought that, as well as the shot of them kissing, was also really well done. It was just, this movie in itself is just a really well-made movie, especially the last 45 minutes. It's a fan's dream come true. Whether you're just a comic book fan or a Spider-Man fan, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, if you liked all the Spider-Man movies that we've had, you're going to sit there with a big smile on your face the entire time. I love this movie, and I'm going to go and see it again this week. I'll probably even go see it again another time. I'll probably watch this movie 3 times, maybe even 4 times in the theater, because before this movie comes out on Blu-ray, I want to watch it as many times as I can on the big screen. Maybe see it in IMAX one time, because I saw it in Prime. I'm going to see it in Dolby this week, so I want to see it in IMAX as well, just to see how the big picture itself looks. But listen, I really enjoyed this movie, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. This is a spoiler discussion, right? So let me know everything you thought. If you disagree with me on everything, if you agree with everything I said, let me know down in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you back in my next video.